The room smelt like bleach and fear. I stood outside the ICU, clutching my phone with both hands, my thumbs hovering above the call button for far too long. My daughter, Lily, was behind those doors, barely breathing, waiting for a surgery I couldn't afford. I dialed my parents. Mom, please, it's urgent. She needs surgery tonight. I just need a co-signer for the loan. A pause. Then a cold, practiced voice. We can't take that kind of risk, honey. We're flying out to Aruba tomorrow. They hung up. That night, I signed the loan myself. By morning, Lily was in surgery, and my parents were sipping champagne at 38,000 feet. My name is Elise Monroe. I'm 42, and for the past 6 years, I've worked as the front desk manager at a small orthopedic clinic in suburban Illinois. It's not glamorous work, scheduling follow-ups, wrestling with insurance codes, juggling irate patients, but it's steady, and I've always been good at it. Organized, polite, invisible most days. Mornings used to start before the sun. I'd wake up at 5:45, rub the sleep from my eyes, and tiptoe down the hallway so I wouldn't wake Lily. Our apartment smelled faintly of lavender and brewed coffee, a scent I clung to like armor. Back then, Lily was finishing high school, 18 years old, and terrifyingly brilliant. She had this messy brown hair and a habit of underlining everything in her textbooks with different colors: blue for facts, green for theories, and yellow for gut feelings. She wanted to study biomedical engineering. It said she wanted to build machines that could help people breathe again. I remember one morning a few weeks before everything fell apart. I made her toast, set it beside her notes, and said, "You're going to do big things, baby." She looked up, grinned. "Only if you stop calling me baby." I laughed and kissed her forehead anyway. That was our world. Quiet. Just the two of us against whatever came next. At work, people knew me as Miss Elise. I wasn't the type to linger in break rooms or gossip in corners. My life was a to-do list. Pick up Lily, pay the electric bill, check in with the billing department, fold laundry, breathe, repeat. It hadn't always been that way. Once upon a time, I was the first in my family to go to college. Got a scholarship for communications, dreamed of working in radio, but dreams are fragile when you're young and naive. I got pregnant with Lily during my final year. The father, James, panicked and ran before I'd even started showing. My parents, Henry and Margaret, weren't thrilled. "You've ruined your future," my mother had hissed. My father just shook his head and said, "We didn't raise you for this." Still, they let me move back home for a while. But things got tense. My mother made comments about mistakes repeating themselves. My father would sigh audibly when Lily cried at night. By the time Lily turned 3, I packed our things and left. I never asked them for anything again, until the day I had no choice. A few months before Lily's health crisis, my sister Tessa came to visit. She lived in Atlanta now. Corporate job, expensive shoes. The kind of woman who said things like, "I simply cannot function without my green juice." She brought my parents with her that time. The moment they walked into our modest apartment, I felt the old familiar pressure in my chest. My mother glanced around and said, "Well, it's cozy." My father nodded once, already distracted by his phone. Tessa placed a bottle of overpriced wine on the table and hugged Lily like she was a prize at an auction. "You've grown so much," she said. "You look just like your aunt did at your age." Lily smiled politely. Later that night, she whispered to me. She said that like it was a compliment. We laughed, but something in my gut tightened. That visit felt like an inspection I hadn't studied for. Still, we tried. We ate dinner. We smiled through awkward silences. I watched my parents fawn over Tessa's latest promotion while ignoring that Lily had just been accepted to 4 different colleges on academic scholarships. It stung, but I had long since learned to bury those little wounds until the big one came. The day Lily collapsed started like any other. She had a headache in the morning, then nausea. By afternoon, she couldn't stand without holding onto walls. At the ER, doctors moved quickly. A mass in her abdomen, internal bleeding, and emergency surgery required. They explained the risks, the urgency, the $48,000 price tag. I swallowed hard. I don't have insurance that covers this, I whispered. And I don't have that kind of money. You can apply for medical loans, one nurse said gently, but you'll need a co-signer to expedite it. I called my parents from the hospital cafeteria, my fingers trembling so badly I dropped the phone twice. I don't even remember what I said exactly, just that I was pleading, desperate. But my mother's voice stayed even, controlled, cold. Elise, we've worked hard to build our retirement. We can't jeopardize it for medical drama. Medical drama. Then came the part that made my heart crack open. She said, besides, Tessa already booked a family trip. We leave tomorrow. It's non-refundable. I froze. My mind reeled. The same Tessa who made Lily pose for social media pictures she never posted. The same parents who once told me having a child had ruined me were now taking their golden daughter on a $14,000 vacation. That night, I signed the loan alone. The next morning, Lily went into surgery, and I sat in the hallway staring at the blank space in my call log where my parents' names used to live. The days after Lily's surgery were a blur of monitors beeping and nurses shifting shifts. Her breathing was steady but fragile. I stayed by her bedside, cradling her hand, willing her to wake. It was during one of those long, sleepless nights, scrolling through old photos on my phone, that I found a bank notification from my mother's account. It was odd because I rarely had access to their finances. The message said a transfer had been made, a large sum, nearly $250,000. I frowned and tapped the app open. I knew that money. It was Lily's full inheritance, a trust my late father had set up when she was born, a safety net for her future. The kind of thing you'd never touch unless it was absolutely necessary. But I had never been informed of any withdrawal. My heart pounded as I called my mother the next morning. Elise, she answered, her voice a little too light. What's this about the trust fund? I saw the transfer. Where's the money? A sigh. We used it, honey, for family expenses. Family expenses? I repeated, feeling my voice catch. What family expenses? There was a long pause. Then you know how it is. Repairs on the house, Tessa's tuition. Things pile up. I tried to keep calm, but my chest tightened. You didn't tell me. Lily's future is in that fund? My mother's tone sharpened. We took care of your dog. That should be enough. But it wasn't. That night, I sat down and opened every document I could find: wills, bank statements, tax returns. The trail was clear and painful. The money had been moved from the trust into their personal accounts, slowly, methodically. No repayment planned. No explanation offered. I thought back to the phone call during Lily's crisis. Medical drama. The vacation. The casual dismissal. I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. The weight of it pressed on me. I couldn't eat or sleep. Every interaction with my parents felt like walking on shards of glass. One afternoon, I confronted my father at a family gathering I'd reluctantly attended. Why did you take Lily's inheritance? I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked away, rubbing his temple. We thought it was for the family. She's your daughter, but she's also our granddaughter. I shook my head. That's not how trust works. Tessa, standing nearby with a glass of wine, smirked. You always did think too much, Elise. The words stung more than any slap. I began to notice other things I'd missed before. Bills left unpaid, repairs on our apartment deferred, Lily's college application fees unpaid despite her scholarships. My parents lived comfortably. Their house had new furniture, fancy dinners, and trips. I wasn't angry because they were wealthy. I was angry because they lied, betrayed us. One evening, Lily curled up next to me. Mom, do you think Grandma and Grandpa loved me? Her voice was small, trembling. I held her tight. They loved themselves more. That was the moment the pain turned into something colder. Not hatred exactly, but determination. I started gathering evidence. Emails, bank records, even messages where my mother dismissed my requests for help. I realized this wasn't just about money, it was about respect, dignity, and the right to protect my child. I would need more than anger. I would need truth. It was a Thursday morning when the past slammed back into my life like a freight train. I had just picked Lily up from her first day back at school after surgery. She was quieter than usual, her face pale but determined. I tried to ignore the dull ache in my chest. As we stepped into the coffee shop near our apartment, I spotted them. My parents seated at a corner table, laughing with Tessa, their faces lit up by the morning sun, sipping on lattes like nothing had ever happened. My stomach twisted. Lily clung to my hand as we approached. Mom, she whispered. I forced a smile, telling myself to stay calm. I cleared my throat. Hi, Mom. Dad. Tessa. Margaret's eyes narrowed, her smile tightening into something cold. Elise, she said, voice clipped. What a surprise. I sat down opposite them, Lily squeezing my hand. I wanted to talk about the trust fund, I said carefully. Henry leaned back, folding his arms. That's old news. It's not old, I said. It's my daughter's future. Tessa rolled her eyes. You're making a scene over money. I felt Lily's grip tighten, a quiet tremor running through her fingers. Mom, maybe we should go, she whispered. No, I said firmly, meeting my parents' eyes. I deserve to know why you took that money without telling me. My father's jaw clenched. You think we stole from you? From Lily? It sure looks that way, I replied. Margaret stood abruptly. You're being disrespectful. We're family. But family doesn't take advantage of each other, I said, voice steady. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Henry said, You're always so dramatic. I saw the hurt flash in Lily's eyes. I'm done pretending this is okay, I said. I stood up, taking Lily's hand. As we walked away, I heard Margaret mutter, She'll regret this. Outside, the city felt louder, harsher. I swallowed the lump in my throat and held Lily close. That confrontation left a scar deeper than I expected. My parents had dismissed me as a troublemaker, a woman bitter about her choices. But their words also ignited something inside me. They had no idea how far I was willing to go to protect my daughter. That night, I lay awake, replaying every conversation. Their faces, cold and dismissive, haunted me. I wondered how love could twist into betrayal so easily. In the days that followed, I noticed subtle changes in how the neighborhood looked at me, whispers behind hands, the occasional cold stare in the grocery store. Tessa had started posting photos of their family vacations, carefully tagging my parents, but never me or Lily. It was as if they had erased us. But I was still here, and I had a plan. I'd lie awake, staring at the cracked ceiling above my bed, hearing Lily's soft breathing beside me. The silence between us was thick, filled with questions neither of us dared to say out loud. I traced the thin gold chain around my neck, the only gift Lily had ever given me. It felt heavier than usual, as if it carried the weight of all the broken promises and stolen dreams. Memories came crashing in. I remembered sitting alone in a cheap motel room the night I left my parents' house with nothing but a small suitcase and a sleeping toddler. The cold winter air biting through the cracked window. The shame, the fear, the hope, all wrapped up in one fragile moment. Then, the night Lily was rushed into surgery. how I had begged for help and was met with silence on the other end of the line. The way my mother's voice had turned icy, so unlike the warmth I once knew. I paced the apartment, feeling the rough fabric of the curtains brush against my fingers. I couldn't let this be the end. Not for Lily. Not for me. I started writing letters to my parents that I never sent, notes to myself about what I deserved and what they had taken. I wrote until my hand cramped, pouring out every word and down into quiet anger. One night, as I gave to sleep, I pulled out my laptop and searched for statements, civil rights groups, anything that could help me fight and learn about trust and about fraud and misinformation. These news was not just walking inside me. It wasn't hopeless, not anymore. I found strength in unexpected places. Lily was fighting on the table and quieter. She studied harder, fought harder for her future. Sometimes when she thought I wasn't watching, she'd glance up with a look that said, "We're going to do this." At work, I confided in my closest friend. She listened without judgment, offering practical advice and emotional support. "You're stronger than you know," she said one evening over burnt coffee. "But don't lose yourself in this fight." Her words echoed in my mind, a reminder to keep my balance. Sleep became a rare luxury. I paced at night, wrestling with fear and hope. Could I really take on my own parents? What would happen if I failed? Would Lily be safe? I felt the weight of every unanswered question, every betrayal etched into my skin. But beneath the fear was something sharper, a quiet, steady flame of resolve. I would do whatever it took. Not for revenge. For justice. The first step was to gather proof. I returned to the apartment early one Saturday morning, determined to find any documents my parents might have left behind, bank statements, contracts, anything that could confirm what I already suspected. My hands trembled as I rifled through drawers and old filing cabinets. The scent of old paper and dust filled the room. I found letters from banks, notices about the trust fund, and hidden among them a series of unsigned documents that hinted at unauthorized transfers. I snapped photos on my phone, careful to keep everything hidden. Next, I reached out to a local legal aid office. The woman I spoke to, Anne, listened patiently as I explained the situation. She asked questions I hadn't considered. Did I have the original trust documents? Was there a written agreement about withdrawals? "I can help you start an inquiry," Anne said. "But cases like these take time, and they're emotionally draining." I nodded, already prepared for a long battle. At work, I kept my focus tight. I documented every conversation, every contact with my parents. I spoke carefully around my colleagues, knowing gossip could make things worse. Some days, the weight of it crushed me. I remember one afternoon when a bank clerk mistakenly told me they couldn't release certain information without my parents' consent. Frustration welled up. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. That night, I sat on the couch, tears spilling freely. Lily came over, hugged me. "Mom, you don't have to do this alone." Her words gave me strength. We were a team. There were setbacks, too. A letter from a lawyer threatening me with defamation. Whispers in the neighborhood. An unexpected call from Tessa, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Maybe it's time to stop stirring the pot, Elise. For Lily's sake." I hung up, anger boiling beneath my calm exterior. But I kept moving forward. I filed complaints, gathered affidavits from neighbors who had seen my parents flaunting expensive vacations, and slowly the truth began to take shape. Months passed. Lily's health improved, and so did my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting to reclaim dignity stolen in silence. Each small victory was a step toward justice, and I was ready for the next. The day I sat across from my parents in the lawyer's office was the day everything changed. The room smelled faintly of leather and stale coffee. The sun filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows on the table. My heart hammered in my chest as the lawyer laid out the evidence. The unauthorized transfer of funds from the trust to your parents' accounts is clear, she said, voice steady but firm. This isn't a case of miscommunication or family support. This is misappropriation. My parents' faces drained of color. My mother's lips pressed into a tight line. My father avoided my gaze. The lawyer continued, because of this, the court will require full restitution of the funds plus damages for emotional distress. Margaret finally spoke, her voice trembling. Elise, we never meant to hurt you or Lily. I swallowed the surge of emotions, the years of hurt, the nights spent crying, the feeling of being invisible to them. Intent doesn't erase actions, I said softly. Lily's future was stolen. The courtroom hearing was tense but surprisingly calm. The judge listened patiently as we presented documents, witnesses, and testimony. My parents' defense crumbled under the weight of facts. The community watched closely. Neighbors who had once whispered about me now nodded with quiet approval. When the verdict came, it was clear: restitution ordered. Legal penalties enforced. The trust fund restored. My parents faced serious financial consequences. The house they had bragged about was placed under lien. Their reputation in the community fractured. After the hearing, my mother approached me, her eyes red-rimmed. I'm sorry, Elise, for everything. I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how deeply they had hurt us, but instead, I nodded. I hope you mean it. Outside the courthouse, Lily grabbed my hand. Mom, we did it. Her smile was tired but real. That moment, I realized this wasn't just about money. The days after the court's decision felt surreal, like waking from a long nightmare into an uncertain dawn. Lily and I returned home to our quiet apartment, the air filled with the scent of rain on concrete. Outside, the world seemed the same, yet nothing felt quite the same inside me. I found myself drawn to the small park down the street where the trees stood tall and the grass was still damp from the morning dew. I'd sit on a weathered bench, tracing the rough grain of the wood, listening to birdsong and distant city sounds, allowing the stillness to seep into my bones. The ache of betrayal remained, but it was quieter now, replaced by a calm strength I hadn't recognized before. I thought often about my parents, not with bitterness, but with a kind of sorrow. How easily love had turned into cold calculation. How years of silence and half-truths had built a wall too thick for simple apologies. One afternoon, Lily and I sat by the window, drinking warm tea. She leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. Mom, she said softly, you think we're really free now? I paused, feeling the weight of the question. Free isn't about what other people do, I said. It's about what we choose to carry forward. We can't change the past, but we decide who we are from here on. She smiled, eyes bright despite everything. That's why I want to study harder, she said. Not just for me. For us. Her quiet determination lifted me. I also found new balance at work. Colleagues who once avoided me now offered support. Maria stayed a constant anchor, reminding me to breathe and find moments of peace. I even began volunteering at a local women's center, sharing my story with others who felt powerless. There was healing and connection in knowing that even shattered trust could be rebuilt into something new. Late at night, when the world was silent, I'd sometimes run my fingers over the gold chain Lily gave me, feeling its gentle weight. It reminded me that love can survive betrayal, that strength is found in truth, and that sometimes justice is quieter than revenge, but no less powerful. After the court ruling, life felt both strange and peaceful. The nightmare of betrayal had lifted, but the quiet ache of what was lost lingered. Lily and I returned to our small apartment, where the air smelled of rain and new beginnings. I often visited the park nearby, sitting on a weathered bench, listening to birds and city sounds. The stillness helped me breathe again. The anger toward my parents had softened into sorrow. It was painful to realize how love had turned cold, but I knew I couldn't carry that weight forever. One afternoon, Lily leaned against me and asked, "Mom, do you think we're really free now?" I smiled, feeling her hope. Freedom isn't about what others do. It's about what we choose to carry forward. We can't change the past, but we decide who we become. In order to build a better future gave me strength I hadn't known I had. Work became a place of support instead of stress. Friends like Maria reminded me to take care of myself. I even began volunteering at a women's center, sharing my story to help others find their voices. At night, I touched the gold chain Lily gave me, the symbol of our bond and resilience. It was a quiet reminder that love can survive betrayal and justice can come without bitterness. This journey taught me that strength isn't about revenge. It's about truth, dignity, and choosing to grow beyond pain. The journey through betrayal and justice left me forever changed. There's a stillness now inside me, not the hollow silence of defeat, but a quiet space carved out by truth and resilience. I often think about how life feels like a river, sometimes gentle, sometimes raging, carving its way through rock and soil, shaping the land and its path. At times, it's easy to be swept away, to lose sight of where you're going. But the river never stops. It finds its way. That's what this felt like, a river reshaping itself after a flood. I remember the night before the trial, lying awake, heart pounding with fear and hope tangled together. I pictured Lily sleeping peacefully, her breathing steady, the soft glow of her bedside lamp casting shadows on the wall. I thought about the stolen inheritance, the cold rejection from my own parents, the crushing silence that followed. But most of all, I thought about what I wanted for my daughter, a future where she could stand tall without fear or shame, where she could build her dreams on solid ground. Justice wasn't about punishment. It was about reclaiming what was ours, the truth, dignity, and a chance to move forward. I didn't want my parents to suffer. I wanted them to understand the cost of their choices. Maybe someday to find a way back to honesty. But even if they never did, I knew I had done right by Lily. Now, when I watch her study late into the night, her brow furrowed with determination, I feel a swell of pride deeper than words. The gold chain she gave me, simple and delicate, is a reminder of love, endurance, and hope. This story isn't just about betrayal or money. It's about the strength we find when everything we trusted breaks. It's about the quiet courage to face hard truths, and about the fierce, unbreakable love between a mother and her child. No matter what happens, that love is our foundation. And from that foundation, we rise.